Hello and welcome to today's Shop My Stash. I like to do rolling Shop My Stashes here on my channel. So first we will go over everything from my June monthly makeup basket, my thoughts on those products, how often I use them, and what I think of them. And then we will get into my collection and digging through and selecting products for July. All of my past Shop My Stashes will be linked down below in the description box, including me selecting the products for June, my initial thoughts on them. If you enjoyed today's video while you're watching, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and let's go ahead and get into it. So while I am grabbing these out of the basket, I did make sure to use the majority of my June Shop My Stash products on my face today, just so you could get a closer look at them, and then also too, just so I could have very recent thoughts on them. Let's start with the palettes today. I picked both of these up this year. The mini Zendo palette from Natasha Denona. I had this one on my wish list for a while. Every time someone would post a photo of it or a photo using it, I was envious and I wanted to give it a try. I will say when I first got this, I thought the middle shade was more green. So I thought this was like a greeny kind of coral palette. It is more neutral with some neutral corals in here as well. I took this with me when we went to Florida earlier in June. So I did travel with it and then I used it a handful of times around that too. I didn't use it so much towards the end of June. I reached for this one more and a couple others that were new to me, but I did get some play with this enough to give my thoughts. The mattes in here, fine. No issues with those. They were pigmented. They blended well. There's only 2 mattes in here. The other 3 are shimmers. For me, I felt like they're kind of hard pressed, so you have to work with them a bit. I did use them with a damp brush, and then I also went over top of them with my fingers. They just weren't like, wow, like in your face shimmers for me. And I'll say the same thing about the next palette when I go through that one. Still pretty, but just not as like blinding of a shimmer, which is fine. There's a place for that too. I would be curious to know though, I do not have a full size Natasha Denona palette. I have had the gold one on my wish list since it released. It's at the very bottom of my Sephora wish list because I can never pull the trigger on it. It's so expensive. But I would be curious if you've tried any of the mini palettes from Natasha Denona. I also have the camel one. I would like to know how they compare to the full size. What you think of the mattes, the shimmers, or any other formula that's in them. I know they are that price tag for a reason probably, and I know people really love the full size palettes, and I hear a lot of people say that they are worth it. So let me know your thoughts. And then the BH palette, the Los Angeles palette. I completely picked up this palette on a whim. I just happened to open it one day at work at Ulta, and I was like, oh yeah, that's for me. It is pastel, but they're bold pastels and a pretty good mix of shimmers and mattes in there. When I did my initial Shop My Stash, when I picked out these products, I had someone mention, they commented that the shimmers are a bit lackluster. I would have to agree. I'm wearing 2 shades today. I have the matte purple, the Abbott Kinney, as well as the Melrose. This was with a damp brush and then I went over it with my fingertips, so it did come out a bit more, but I would just expect more of a punch just looking at the pan. Again, there's a place for that, the more subdued shimmer, so I'm not like pissed about it or anything. I'm still glad I bought this palette. I think the mattes in here are what really shine, and I've really enjoyed using them. What I've been doing is something that I never do, but I've just been taking one shade and putting it all over. That's initially what I was going to do today, but I was like, let me try a shimmer, get some more use out of it. But I did that specifically with the Dreamer shade, and I love the way that turned out. I thought it was so pretty, and I also did it with, I think it was one of the 2 coral shades in here. I haven't done a ton of blending between 2 shades, like 2 that are kind of opposite, so I will have to get some more use out of it to really speak to that. But so far, I'm really glad that I did get this palette. It was $17. I think it was well worth the value. And I don't really have anything else in my collection that looks like it, so I am glad that I got it. I have 2 products from Smashbox next. This is just like a trial size. I'm sure I got it as a freebie at some point. It's the Photo Finish Foundation Primer, the oil-free pore minimizing. The original Smashbox, I had that like so long ago. I can't even remember my thoughts on it. I think they make 4 or 5 different types now. now. This one would be the most appealing to me now anyway. Back when I got this, even just a couple years ago, my pores were so minimal. When I first started this channel, you could really only see some on my nose, but now I've started to get them more in here as well as some fine lines. And I feel like this type of product I can put more to the test and speak to it more than I could before because I didn't have those issues. So looking up close, I wore both of them today, the tinted moisturizer as well as this primer. I think it does a pretty decent job at blurring my pores. I can't even see them in here. I can just see my fine lines coming through. But other than that, I think it looks really nice. And same thing on my nose. My nose always looks a little messy. It doesn't always react well to different primers and foundations. It often looks very broken up, especially when I first put my makeup on. After a while, once everything absorbs and melts in a bit, that's usually when my nose looks a bit better. But I think overall, the two of them worked well together. And I also took this with me, and I've used it with the Pure 4-in-1. Took this with me when we went to Florida as well, and it also worked well with that foundation. I'm gonna keep using this. And if I use it up and I'm still liking it, I may go ahead and purchase. I have also been using, and you guys will see, I put it into July's basket, the Milk Blur Stick. And I think I'm liking that one a little bit more. Maybe I'll do a side-by-side comparison to see which one I want to get next time. All right, and then for this from Smashbox again, the Halo Healthy Glow All-in-One Tinted Moisturizer. I have been using for years the Bare Minerals Complexion Rescue Tinted Moisturizer. I have backstocks of it. I've probably been using that for, I'd say, like 4 years, maybe even longer. And I do really like it. I used to love it. It used to be perfect for me, but I think just more in recent times, I've been wanting a little bit more coverage, maybe a little more blurring. My skin has changed, and that just wasn't doing it so much and evening it out. Even when I built it up, I still like it. I don't think it will ever not be a part of my collection, but I wanted something a little bit more that was between that level of coverage and a full like foundation, like my Pure one that I love, the 4-in-1. And I was between this one and the hydrating one from Urban Decay. I can't remember the name of it right now. It's like probably like Hydro Glow or something like that. And I was between the two of them and ultimately went with this one. It's in the shade Fair Light. I love this. I really like the way it makes my skin look. I have it on now, like I said, with the primer. I have put this to the test. I took this to Florida where it was very hot. I wore this to a wedding, so I was outside, and then another day when I was just in the heat. I haven't been wearing it so much for work days just because I wear a mask and I get really lazy about putting it on. I usually just do a concealer and a little powder, but I think this one I'll be reaching for more often than the Bare Minerals one. I like the way it makes my skin look. It doesn't settle into fine lines. It doesn't accentuate dry patches either, but we'll see come fall, winter time how that goes. It can drastically change. My skin can change between the seasons, but for now, really loving this. My standout favorite for everything I tried in June would be the Kosas Revealer Concealer, another product that was on my wish list for a while. I am very picky with concealer, getting even pickier as those fine lines are starting to show through, and I'm finding that I need to set my under eye with powder. Not everything works so well under there. And then of course also my under eye area is pretty dry, so I need something that's just hydrating enough, gives me like a medium coverage. I don't need full. And then of course I need it to not get patchy or anything like that. My favorite concealer for a very long time, and you guys are probably sick of me talking about it if you've been here for a bit, but the Flower Beauty Light Illusion Concealer, that is like my ride or die. It's the one I always put on for work days just because I don't have to think about it. I often do not have to set that one. There's occasionally where it will get a little creasy and I'll throw a tiny bit of powder under there, but for the most part, it's flawless. It just doesn't have a ton of coverage. It is a very light coverage that can be built up, and I don't like to reach for that one as much when I'm wearing foundation because it just doesn't look so right. So I need something with a little bit more on my foundation days. I do like the Rare Beauty one, but this one has topped it for me. The coverage on this is perfect. It's not too heavy, it's not too light. I put it on today. I usually will let my concealer sit, not that long, like maybe I'd say like 30 seconds, but that, if you didn't know, will help to give your concealer more coverage. So usually when I am doing a full face of makeup like I am today, even though it's just a tinted moisturizer, but usually I will put some on my nose, my chin, any areas that need it. I have a couple little pimples right now. a little on my forehead and then under my eyes. I'll blend all those center areas first, and then I'll do my eye area last, just because that's where I have the most darkness. And this one has blended just effortlessly. I do need to set it, and what I've been using, which I don't think is what is intended for, but I've been using the Kosas Cloud Set powder that does have a little bit of tint to it, but it's so sheer. I feel like I can get away with using it under my under eyes. It doesn't look too brightening or too much like my actual skin tone, and it sets it just enough. So the combo of the two together, I've really been loving. I've been debating, and let me know if you want to see this, but so far, so many of the Kosas products that I have purchased, I have absolutely loved. This one, the Cloud Set powder, I also have got the Air Brow, which has been great, and I think I want to pick up some more things and maybe do a full face of Kosas. If that's something you would be interested in seeing, do let me know. I know they've been like a really popular name in makeup lately, and I've seen a lot of people do that video, so I just don't know if it's worth the cost of me buying all those products, but if it's something you want to see, I think that one could be really fun, so let me know. Another product that I saw all over Instagram and wanted to try one out for myself, this is the Salt New York. It is one of their palettes, and I have 4 pans in here that I picked out. First of all, I thought it was such a steal. I love anything that I can customize. I have the prices right here so I could say them. They had a code at the time. It was bundle, just in all caps. I don't know if that's still active, but if it is, it made each pan $11.60, so $11.20. So in total, I paid, plus the palette was $14. My subtotal was $58.80, and the shipping was free. So I thought that was a really good deal. The case is really sturdy here too, so I think this is going to last me a while. I travel with this one as well. I bought 2 of the blushes, the rose as well as the peach. The Sculpt in Bronze Tint Pro in the lightest, as well as the highlighter. This is really good. I am really happy that I did eventually grab this. The highlighter is the only thing that I'm like kind of so about, and maybe I'm just not using it correctly. I've been doing it with my finger because it's kind of thick feeling, and I always have a feeling that it's going to pick up my makeup when I put it down, like if I were to use it with a sponge. So I had to play around with that one more. I did reach more for the high glass that I'm going to show in a little bit than I did the actual highlighter. Swatched, it's very pretty. That is the Pearl shade, if I didn't say so already. And then I bought the bronzer or the contour in light. This is very, very light. This on my cheeks is built up twice. I like that. I like having to build up my bronzer versus having something that you can put on too much of and think, oops, I gotta like restart my makeup. So this is a little better for me, and I really like the way it looks. I think this and the blushes are so freaking natural looking. The rose as well as the peach, and they really just melt into the skin. I'm wearing the rose one now. I think this might have actually been the first time that I've reached for the rose. I typically go for like more peachy and coral tones, but I did ultimately pick up the rose shade just to try something different. And I think it looks so natural on the skin. I know I'm saying natural a lot, but that's really the only way I know how to describe these. I made the mistake of following their Instagram, and they're always doing limited edition shades. They just did 2. One was like a bright purple and then like a really poppy coral, and I almost went for them, but I had some restraint and didn't let myself. And then I also put a powder blush duo in here. I just knew for me, I wasn't going to reach for a cream blush and bronzer every day, especially on work days. This is much quicker. I did travel with this, and sadly to say, I did break one of the pans in here. It didn't break right away, but about a week after we got home, one of the pans did start to separate, and I have a feeling it is from just being like jostled around. But the 2 shades in here, we have Rose Petal as well as Marigold. They're both really pretty. Of the 2 of them, I reach for this one more. It is a little bit peachy, but it is mostly pink. It has a very pretty shimmer to it. It's not glittery, but you can definitely see it, especially in the sunlight. It's more shimmery, but I think it's more of like a natural shimmer. It's not too much for me, and I can be really picky when it comes to shimmers and glitters in my blushes. Same thing with the Marigold. This one looks like in the pan like it's going to be too deep on me, but if I use a really light hand, just a little bit on my brush, I can make this this work, and I think it also looks really nice. Just to swatch both of those. I have another blush duo from Jouer, and I can't remember the name of it right now. I think it's the Adore Me duo, or at least one of the shades is called Adore Me. I love that, and I used to wear that all the time, and that's what led me to pick this one up. Again, my hand is also pretty tan, so it looks a little bit different on my skin. But I hadn't reached for this a ton, so I am glad I put it into my Shop My Stash. Moving right along to another product that just didn't get a lot of love. I used this around the time that I purchased it. Actually, a coworker was raving about it, and I ended up buying it. This was last summer this was released, and I think there was maybe 3 different shades. The NYX High Glass, it's a finishing powder. I think this is kind of their answer to the Hourglass powders. This has more of a shimmering effect to them though. They're not quite as blinding as a highlighter. I'd say they're right in between. Where I really like to use this, I would use it on the cheeks occasionally if I just wanted something really subtle. But right above the lip, the Cupid's bow, a little on the nose, above the brow, those areas where you don't always want to be like, hey, I'm wearing a highlighter, this can be really nice. The powder is also really fine, so it doesn't accentuate any lines or pores. You can see it just a tiny bit when I move my hand, but it's not like in your face. I tend to buy these kind of products, like these finishing powder kinds of things, and then I forget to use them. They're just like an extra step. So by putting this into my Shop My Stash, it reminded me to use it. Next are eyeliners as well as a mascara. I had this from e.l.f. It's their gel liner. I purchased this for when I did a full face using e.l.f. makeup. That was a year ago. And this I had still sitting in the package when I did pick out products for June Shop My Stash, so I thought it was time. I did actually just look on their website to fill out my description to see the name of this, and I don't think they carry it anymore. There's a purple one as well as a brown one, but I did not see the black, so maybe they're discontinuing them. I put it on today. I had to do this liner twice. The opacity for this just isn't really there. It comes off more of like a soft gray, and then like I said, I did have to build it up, which is not a fun thing to do when you're trying to do a wing liner. If I get it right the first time, I'm probably not going to get it right the second time. It seemed okay today. I think they're like semi-even, but anyway, other than that, this did not move once I put it into place. I haven't been wearing it so long today, but the other times that I've used it, I didn't have any issues with it moving or flaking. e.l.f. is a brand I have a hard time shitting on just because I know what I paid for this. There are other brands with gel liners that I've spent $20 on or more, and they also haven't been the most opaque, and I feel like I got ripped off. At least I know with this, I paid probably $4 for it, and it wasn't the worst thing I ever tried, so I'm not gonna hate on it. I probably will get some more use out of it. I just have to be very careful when using it. From Marc Jacobs, I threw one of the highliners into my Shop My Stash. This is called In the Buff. I don't love this. I think I have to do a lot to get it to show up. It's just really subtle. I think I want more of like a brightening effect on my waterline. On my hand, it's probably gonna look fine, but I will swatch it. It's kind of like an ivory champagne shade. I also find, and this could also just be the length of time that I've had this, but I also find that I really have to warm it up before it shows on my waterline at all. I have a feeling though that's more on me than it is on the actual product. I know a lot of people love these liners. I will say I only have this one as well as an orange shade that is like a shimmering kind of shade, similar. I'm gonna get so messed up with those S's. Similar formula to this one where it is shimmery, it's not matte, and maybe that's why I don't love them because I've never tried the other one. I have a mascara next. This is the Covergirl Exhibitionist. I've had this for almost a full year now, maybe even a year or longer. It just kind of all flies by. I knew this was starting to dry out, so I wanted to get some more use out of it before it did. This was my favorite for a while. I moved from this to the e.l.f. Keep Your Curl, which is in July, a little spoiler alert. And then now I have discovered the Ilia mascara. Obsessed. I don't see myself loving anything else anytime soon. In fact, I have a really hard time reaching for the Shop My Stash mascaras just because I like the way that one looks on my lashes so much. So I use this a handful of times, but I did not use it every day. I'm wearing it now. It's fine. It separates my lashes really nicely, but I don't think it does anything to lengthen them, and that's what the Ilia one does for me. Covergirl is another brand that I have thought about doing a full face-of video for. I think the next time they have a new launch, if it's very exciting, that may be something that I do. I put 2 lip products into my Shop My Stash. Just like last time, I try not to do too much with my lip products just because I know I won't get a lot of use out of them. I do still wear a mask to work even though I'm fully vaccinated. So it doesn't make a lot of sense for me to put a full lipstick on under there because no one's going to see it. And even if I do wear it, I'm probably going to mess it up and have it transfer everywhere just because I move my mask up and down to eat and drink and everything else. So I don't really bother with that. So lip products are really just for filming days. The Just a Tint, sad to say this, but I think I only used this today for the first time. I've used it other times like when I bought it, but at least for the month of June, I kind of forgot about it. I meant to put it into my purse so that I would maybe occasionally apply it at work, but I completely forgot. Today I have it over a lip liner, over Urban Decay's Naked 2. I just thought the two would pair well together. I'd say this has more of a tint than like a tinted lip balm. It does have a good amount of color to it. It's sheer but can be built up. I really like the sheen on here. It smells nice too. It has a peachy scent to it. So I am sad that I didn't use this more. I have more of these because I got them when I did the Animal Crossing or when I picked up the Animal Crossing X Colourpop collab, and I never reached for those either. So that's why I wanted to put this into my Shop My Stash. I totally failed on this one. And then for Melt, I also threw in a lipstick. This is the Old Rose Ultra Matte, I believe it's called. And that is what it looks like. I wore this in my last video and then a few other times as well. For it being a matte lipstick, I don't find it to be too drying, and I do like the tone of it as well. It's like a cool toned mauve. I put this in here because I really want some of the new lipsticks from them. I don't know if they changed the formula or just the packaging. They all have like a really pretty embossed script around the actual lipstick now. I know this one has been revamped, but then they also released some new shades, the Nudes collection. I want a couple of those, so I decided I should probably use up some of this one first. And then the last thing is the Morphe Continuous Setting Mist. I said in a video, probably the intro to my June, picking out for June. Maybe it was another one. I recently discovered that Morphe and Fenty are both in the gray area when it comes to being cruelty-free. I did not realize that. I do not like that at all. Fenty is the one I'm more sad about because I love so many Fenty products and there are so many others that I want to try. Morphe, this is really it. I do also like their brushes, but honestly, I think they're kind of sketchy, so I stay away from Morphe. I don't really like go, oh, new Morphe release. Like I'm not like obsessed with them, but this setting mist I am obsessed with. There is a tiny bit left in here and I'm probably going to be saving it for a special day. The mist on here is just so fine. It's like so light when it hits your skin. It doesn't feel like you put on anything. And it also does a really good job at setting your makeup in place too. I recently had in the last Shop My Stash, I think it was in April's, I had the luminous version. Does not have the same sprayer on it, but it is still really fine. And I love the way that one made my skin look. Would have bought that one if I could. I would have bought both of these again if I could. So we'll see what happens with Morphe. But for now, I cannot buy them again, even if I wanted to. And I want to. Now that that is out of the way, those are all of my June thoughts, my thoughts on those products. Let's go ahead and get into selecting for July. All right, so starting off, I do want to say we are having a pretty overcast day here today. It is not the brightest, so I hope you guys can see everything okay. I typically will throw a couple items into my basket that I already know I want to focus on, things that I've recently purchased. So the two that I already know, I threw in Colourpop, that's a taupe palette. I bought that completely on a whim. It's a very cool toned palette. I've dipped into the matte shades, but I've yet to use the shimmers, and I would love to get more use out of this month. I have had one of these on my wish list forever. I've been dying to try this brand. I believe it's pronounced Ritual de Fille. I bought one of their highlighters in Solaris. It has a pink and red shift. The red's not coming through so much right now, but I've worn this once, and I would definitely like to play with this more in July. Moving over to palettes, I added some stickers since the last time you guys have seen this setup. I'm 33 and still just as obsessed with stickers. I do already have that Colourpop palette, but I think I'm going to go ahead and grab one more. Maybe one that is more colorful. And I think I know what I want to go for. I bought this when it launched from Norvina, the ABH Norvina Collection. I think this is number 3. This is the Pro Pigment Palette Volume 3. It may look like I've used this, but mostly that's all from doing swatches. I did some very intricate swatches with this one. I think it was like a feather shape. It's been so long I can't remember. But as far as actually using this on my eyes, I only have used a couple of shades in here. And I keep meaning to pull this one out, especially for summertime. I think this is perfect. These 2 drawers are the drawers I always show, and then I also have all of my bronzers, blushes, and highlighters in here. I never show this drawer. This is where I keep everything I use the most. And then a couple of items like on the side here are things that I've yet to try. I've been reaching for the Milk Makeup Blur Stick. This is just a baby size. I took this with me when we went to Florida a few weeks back. And I actually really like this. This has sat in my collection for so long. I think I got it as part of like a sampler travel kit, but I didn't really test it out. And now I'm thinking I may want the full size once I use this up. So I'm going to throw this in for my primer. I have some brow products, some concealer, a mascara, and the brow gel from NYX that I cannot stop playing with. This is one of the Sky Washes from Glossier. I've been trying to use this more. These products are getting a little dusty. I think that's all for this drawer. This drawer holds most of my base products and then some eye products as well, like mascaras and liners and brow products. I really like this foundation every time I wear it, the Born to Glow. I have 2 of them, just 2 different shades. I really want to try this from Zoeva because I haven't tried it yet, but when I pulled it out for my last Shop My Stash, it looks a little too light for summertime. I think it's going to be the same with the Apple foundation. I really need to get more use out of this too. This foundation's a little bit more yellow on me, and I think probably during summer is the best time to use it. It's the Born This Way from Too Faced, the original one. I haven't used this in a long time, so I'll throw this in. And for setting spray, I've really been liking the Milk Hydro Grip. I was reaching for this when I wasn't reaching for the Morphe Continuous Mist that was in my Shop My Stash. Because the Too Faced is more matte, I'll put this with it. Do I want a powder? Sometimes I put a powder in, sometimes I don't. I think I'm going to skip on the powder and just rotate them. I already have a primer. Brow products I've been really consistent with and have just been reaching for the same things. I'm going to put in this from Patrick Ta. This is the Shaping Wax, and this is the tinted version. Mascara is the same deal. Every time I put a mascara into my Shop My Stash, I ignore it because I love the E.l.f. one so much. This was my favorite before the E.l.f. one, the E.l.f. Keep Your Curl, and I use this so much that it's almost empty, even though I was really just using it in the winter time. Typically, I don't go through mascaras that fast because I have so many, but I think I'll put this one in and try to use it up. I'm going to pull this cup out. Because there's so many brights in that ABH, I think I should pick some brights to go with it. So what pops out to me is yellows and greens. The for liner, I'll throw in this from NYX. This is one of the Epic Wears. I love these. I think I have maybe 4 of them here. This one I've yet to open though. This is the Cosmic Yellow. I think that'll pair well. Here's a green one. I'm not going to throw this one in, but I really like this shade. I have a purple one here too. I'm going to do this one as well. This is technically a lip liner. It's from LA Girl. It's one of the Shockwaves. I will also use these on my waterline. I've had no issue doing that. But just looking at this, I think it'll pair really well. So we'll do 2 brights for eyeliner. And then for my bottom drawer, and I forgot to mention, I did not pick a concealer on purpose. I've been really loving the one from Kosas, and then I have my Flower Beauty one, also the Rare Beauty one, and I pretty much just rotate them depending on if I'm going to do a light day of makeup or a full coverage day. So this drawer looks a little more chaotic, but I promise it is organized. Everything has a place. I have lashes here. The center is all lashes as well. This is backstocks of products. I have some special effects stuff back there. Cream, eyeshadows, as well as single eyeshadows. I've been really loving creams lately. I'm obsessed with these from Smashbox. I think because I've had this for a minute, I'm going to use this from Glossier. I showed the Sky Wash that I purchased. I have one more of those too that's a brown. This is like a very light pink, and it's also a sheer wash of color. I think they still make these. This is Lid Star, and it's in the shade Cub. This should be pretty easy to pair with any eyeshadow look, so I think I'm going to try to get some use out of this one. I already selected a highlighter rather than a bronzer. I picked this up. I don't know why I bought this. I think I was just having nostalgia for the original Shade and Light palette and saw this, how you can purchase the contour shades separately. So I got this in the lightest version. I remember I used to reach for that palette all the time, and I wanted to give the singles a go. That's the 2 shades there. I used it a couple of times when I bought it, but I haven't reached for it again. So instead of a bronzer, I think I'm going to try to focus on using this. I never use the lighter shades of contour. Maybe that's something I can play around with. I'm going to put this in. This is from Melt. It is their Buzzkill Digital Dust Duo Blush. I saved the packaging because it's so pretty. This is one of those things I had to have, and really it's the packaging that did it for me. I'm pretty sure I used this in a video, but I haven't reached for it since then. And that's what the inside looks like. Very pretty and peachy. And then lastly, we need some lip products. On the bottom, I have my traditional bullet lipsticks, some liquid lipsticks over here, and then the Animal Crossing X Colourpop Lippy Sticks. And then this is glosses and liquid lipsticks. I haven't played with this in a while, and it's really pretty from Nabla. It is called Eve. I'll swatch that at the end. This isn't quite a liquid lipstick. It still has a glossiness to it, but the staying power is very nice. And then I'm just going to do the e.l.f. Lip Lacquer. This is just the clear lip gloss. I haven't worn this a ton, and this is something I can just very easily throw on top of anything. That is the Nabla Eve swatched. My camera does not want to focus right now. I am going to skip on lip liners just because I've been rotating them pretty well on my own. I emptied out my basket. I'm going to have to clean this somehow. But just to reiterate what I picked out for the month, I have 2 palettes, a cool neutral as well as a brights palette, the mini primer from Milk, Too Faced Born This Way, the Shade and Light from KVD, the Ritual de Fille highlighter, as well as the Milk Cosmetics blush, the Lid Star from Glossier, Patrick Ta Brow Shaping Wax, 2 liners for the waterline, e.l.f. Keep Your Curl Mascara, Nabla Eve Liquid Lipstick, as well as e.l.f. Clear Gloss, and then the Milk Hydro Grip Setting Spray. So that is everything for my July basket. If you guys want to see me use these in a video, do let me know. I could do a get ready with me with them or some other type of video. I mentioned a while ago, and I actually asked for them, but I never got to film it. I think I may do a video on unpopular opinions. So keep a lookout for me asking for those opinions soon, but I could use these while filming that video. If that's something you would like to see, do let me know. If you have tried any of these products or any of the products from my June basket, I would love to hear your thoughts on them. If you enjoyed this video, do let me know by giving it a thumbs up. And if you would like to see me and more of my remarks, please subscribe if you haven't already. I thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I will see you soon.